Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees for Monday, August 8th, 2022. First item on our agenda, would you please rise and pledge allegiance with me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is the agenda review. We need any executive session or anybody? No? Okay. So the agenda stands as printed. Item number 4, public comment. Welcome.
I'm in public.
No, you're not. You're not public, are you? You're part of the. Would you like to comment?
I have no, no comment other than what's on the agenda.
Okay. And I'll probably be plenty before we're done. So, okay. Item number 5, approve and accept the minutes from our Monday, July 25th, 2022 meeting as presented.
I will make the motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve and accept the minutes from our Monday, July 25th meeting. Any discussion?
No.
If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried unanimously. Item number 6, approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, August 4th, 2022. What's your pleasure with the warrants?
I move they be approved.
And I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the village warrants through August 4th. Any questions, discussion on them?
I didn't have any questions.
If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carried unanimously. Item number 7, Elizabeth,
That's me.
letter of support for grant through FCIDC for Vision Nutrition,
Yes,
new business downtown Mercantville.
yes. So, every year, the state's Buildings and General Services has a Building Communities Grant Program. FCIDC's applied for several in the past successfully. So, we are actually doing 3 or 4 grant applications for Swanton businesses. We're doing Green Mountain Knitting, which is going to the old Myron building in the industrial park. We're doing one for Green Mountain Welding, which is moving from Highgate Road to Route 7, where the old Chase Auto used to be.
Yes, yes.
For the old one?
Chase Auto.
Chase.
Oh, okay,
um,
Cubs are. Corner across the.
And then we are doing, I think I'm missing one, but it's neither here nor there, till it gets time to do the grant. And then, so we are doing one for Vision Nutrition, which is a Herbalife supplement and skincare, basically, retail store. They'll also be doing some, kind of outreach to help people, get out and walk and that kind of thing. It won't be like a gym, but they'll have some light equipment for folks to get out. They have been to the DRB last month, that application, and that was successful. So they are putting in, we're looking for grant funds to put in, to fund a bathroom on the first floor. There's one in the basement, but they'd like one on the first floor. So we will be applying for funds. So I've drafted a letter of support from the village, and I think that's in your agenda packet. So all we're asking is, there is a match, but the match comes from the business, not from the village, so we're not asking you for any money. I guess I should have started with that. We're just asking for a letter of support for the business to come into Merchants Row. If you're not familiar, for those who aren't familiar, it's going where the old Swanton Rexall was, which would probably always be where the old Swanton was. So that's the ask today, is just for a letter of support, for their grant application.
When's that due? Was it
September 10th.
September 10th? So.
Do we need a motion for that?
Yes.
We move, we would make the intent of writing a letter of support
Okay.
as requested. I'll second that.
So the motion's been made and seconded to approve the letter of support for, Vision Nutrition, for the grant for Vision Nutrition downtown,
Authorize me to sign it.
as Reggie has presented it. Does that sound okay?
I read it.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried. Good luck to them.
The other thing is, I just want to give you an update on the Riviera Hotel. You may have seen some, thank you, Reg, you may have seen some activity, I guess it's been almost 2 weeks ago now. They removed the underground storage tank. There was some question as to whether or not there was one. They did the ground penetrating radar, and I think it was not where we thought it would be. It was more toward the front corner, the front yard, than the side yard. So I think that was, but they did find it. It was removed. It was mainly full of water, and there was some sludge on the bottom. If you've seen the tarp, that is, I believe that is the soil from around it, that has to be removed, which obviously, that will be done. They are coming, I believe, next week to do some groundwater, sampling. So that process is moving slowly.
Back up, they did drill 6 wells.
They did drill the bore, which was, Neil and I were there, he was there longer than I was. Those rods are long.
Yeah.
They don't take much to the lab, but it was an interesting process. And they had a little remote controlled, robot drilling thing. The whole thing was really interesting. I'm glad I stopped by to watch it for a bit. So the other thing is, as I think we talked about at the last meeting, there was some asbestos on the first floor. Mainly there was ceiling, and I think actually the ceiling tiles hit the wall too, didn't they? It was wall and ceiling tiles in the laundry area, and then there was some floor tiles in the first floor, and then there was some insulation on the basement piping. That will have to be removed. I got an email on August 3rd from Greta at Regional Planning. The village can apply for a sub-grant through the revolving loan fund. It's a revolving loan fund.
But it's a grant.
Well, she says grant, through the revolving loan fund, which is where I was hesitated, because that's almost like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
So, and so Reg, Neil, and I kind of talked about this to think it through. If you go that route, so the kind of the plan is for KAS, because they've been involved through the phase 1 and the phase 2. KAS is putting together a cost proposal for the abatement specifications, the bid management, and the cleanup oversight. If you use federal funds, you have to go through an official bid process. If you use your own funds, you don't.
But we still have to do, because of our procurement policy.
You would still have to get 3 estimates, but KAS can reach out to their folks, because they have people that they use. Our thought was, and my thought was, because we're in August, if we want to get the building down this year, that we go ahead and the village pay for it. And I'll get to cost in a second. let KAS do their bid thing. Would be a quicker process. I'm thinking time frame now, just be quicker for them to get the bids instead of going out, making up the, you know, the RFQ, putting it out for 3 weeks to a month, waiting a couple weeks, so we're talking 6 or 8 weeks versus potentially half that time. Greta estimates that, I don't have the estimate from KAS, she says 30,000 might be appropriate, but we'll get a confirmation from KAS.
So Elizabeth, would this be Swanton Village dealing directly with KIS or, KAS?
Correct,
Not having regional planning in the middle?
correct. I just think, you know, again, assuming the building doesn't fall down, and I think Neil, when he went in with KAS time before last, there was an issue with one of the support beams, support columns in the basement. But you could go either route. You could either do the sub-grant, or you could potentially pay for it out of pocket.
Are we able to use our own revolving loan fund?
Could, or we could probably, there may be some in the general fund that we could use for this purpose, but,
How big a risk is there that we wouldn't get reimbursed?
well, after we sell the land, hopefully that we will get reimbursed for all of our expenses. That's the hope.
This 30 grand is just to clean up the
It's the asbestos.
dirty
stuff.
stuff,
Yes.
not take the building down.
Correct, so you would have the
Yeah.
additional cost. Either way, you are paying for the building to come down. So that would
Which
be
we
an
were to
addition.
begin with, right?
Right,
Yeah.
unless it falls down.
So if one of us goes by and sneezes and that building falls, are we good?
No, you really have to clean it up, all of it.
So I just wanted to give you kind of those two thoughts to think about. I'm stuck on the time. I think we all, and I'm not alone, we all want that. Somebody said that everybody who drove by when KS was out there was yelling, tear that thing down, which we kind of knew, but, you know, I'm not discounting that it's potentially $30,000, which is
Have you had a bid up 30?
not yet. That is the estimate based off of,
Okay,
but
we'll have to wait for the bid then.
yeah. So, hopefully, I was hoping to get that today, hopefully we'll get it this week, and then,
So, I'm a little bit confused, so exactly what are we getting for this $30,000?
you're getting the asbestos gone.
Which is just a bunch of pins.
And
30
it's
grand.
insulation, yeah,
Like,
And-
like
and
I'm in the
removal
wrong
and-
business.
Anywhere, yeah. It's expensive.
it's.
Why can't we do that?
because
You have to be
we're
licensed.
They're not certified.
not certified.
Yeah.
You'll be licensed in the state.
I got you, there's no arguing, you're gonna have somebody that's certified to do it.
Most of the cost is something sure.
110?
And the fewer people we have involved, the faster it'll get done and the cheaper it'll get done. I think,
I'm
that's
just
my
asking.
opinion.
I mean,
If we circle back, that process, what we're doing right now is that golden ticket, right? So when you sell it, the land has been remediated and you got a clean bill of health, so whatever wants to get put there, they don't have to worry about skeletons in the attic kind of thing.
that makes it more valuable.
Yes.
And the 30,000 doesn't sound so bad to me because of something that Adam and I are familiar with a project here that cost us over 100. So, with that in mind, 30 seems
Yeah.
okay.
Now that's,
And if the bid comes in at 24?
That's better.
To, I think to Chris's point, too, it's not that much.
Right.
It's not on all, 3 floors or 4 floors, including the basement, it's not.
talk to her burned.
Right, right. So it's relative, and it's relatively contained, but it's the removal and the
Labor.
labor and,
And the odds that we can make it up in the sale price are pretty good. So,
I assumed that when we
Yeah.
did it. Sorry, was that?
Well, and so you have the direct cost of the sale of the lot, and then you have the indirect cost of the grand list.
And another thing that they aren't considering yet is what the dig report is gonna tell. See if there's something in the soil that we have to remove, that would be different. This 30,000 is for the building.
But there are cleanup funds. You can't use cleanup funds for asbestos. I don't make the rules.
Can't use cleanup funds
I
for
don't
it.
make the rules. I just report them.
Okay, I think I understand.
Okay, I
Right.
believe you. So, their dig report, their soil report is supposed to be this week? Maybe?
I believe, yes.
Or it's supposed, the whole assessment's supposed to be done by the end of the month.
The end of the month, we were about 10 days behind because of the EPA has a 30-day, I believe it was, comment period. And, you know, with everybody on vacation and everything, that got delayed. So I'm hoping by Labor Day or the week after.
And what's the status of this other historical permit? Is
So
that,
Section 108 should be started, and that also should be finishing at the same time. So the Section 106 is the archaeological historic preservation. It seems kind of weird given the shape that the building is in, but there's no question it'll be a substantial impact to the historic building, because the historic building is the age, not the condition. They're not gonna say you can't tear it down. They may say, because it is a historic building, you may have to do some mitigation, and that may be something as simple as a plaque commemorating that this space used to be the Riviera Hotel. Personally, I like the idea of naming whatever goes there, the Riviera something, just to keep the name, and neither one of those is mitigation. It's not, you're not gonna have to pay $20,000 or, you know, whatever, like you may have to do for ag mitigation. This is a much simpler, mitigation.
okay?
Two more very related things. We can start discussing demolition.
Huh?
We can't do it, we can start talking about demolition. So,
I got excited for a second.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Because as I think everybody knows, everybody's busy. You can't find a plumber, a contractor, whatever. Now's the time just to get on people's radars, to tell them this is coming. What is their schedule like? I think we have a couple of people in mind who could perhaps do that. Again, your procurement policy is 3 bids, so you may want to start looking at that and seeing what kind of schedule you can get on. Hopefully, I'm not making any promises, but hopefully before winter, or early spring, depending on what schedules are, what's the cost gonna look like, in case you need to do any budgeting for that. Any big items that you wanna get out of there, I would make plans to get that out now. I'm not trying to rush you, but I don't want us to get held up because we're not thinking ahead. So I just wanna put that out there so that as things get done, we can start moving ahead. We're on a roll.
Have a yard sale? Is that what
Is that billiard table out of
you-
there
Put
yet?
everything out front, have a yard sale.
There you go. Just nobody trooping
I don't know
through.
who's gonna go in and pick it up, but.
Yeah, right. So, that's where we are with the Riviera Hotel.
Awesome.
Okay.
Progress.
Slowly.
Okay. So, we could probably get a hold of KAS and see if they have contractors that they've been working with.
He is
Also-
working on the specifications for the abatement, and then he's doing up the cost estimate for all of that, and then we'll move on
Good.
to bids.
I know a couple of local guys would love to tear right into that. Yeah. Yeah, and Elizabeth was right when when the fellows were taking the tank out of the ground there's multiple people that drive by with their window down and say, tear it down before it falls. So, I mean, it's got a soft spot in a lot of people's hearts for what went on there, but, I mean, and I'm as much of a historic nut as anybody, but, that building has been neglected for so long. It was burned on its upper floors and not repaired, so it's not reasonable to try to save that. We save the memories that go with it.
Speaking of which, I'm glad you said that, because I would very much like, and I pitched this to Reg, and Rich Keller, who would maintain your website, I would love to have a page on the website, kind of document this process. Here's the history of it with some very historical pictures. Here's the unfortunate state it's in now. Here's the phase 1 report, the phase 2 report, the section 106 report, because it's a publicly owned building, you should be transparent and provide that information. Take some, some pictures of before, after, during, that kind of thing. I just think it'd be kind of cool. It will be a good thing when it comes down, just because of the shape that it's in, but to Neil's point, that's a lot of history for a lot of people, and I think if there was one, it doesn't have to be on the website for forever, but I think for a while to document the progress that we're making, I think would be really cool, and I know Rich is busy, and not that I'm not, but, I'd be happy to help Rich take that on, if that's something that you think should happen.
Do you know if anyone has photographs in the past?
The Historical Society does.
I noticed that, I'm sure. That's good.
Okay, well, we can start that up, get something going. I know there's some random newer photos of the inside that somebody went in without the permission to get the photos. Historical Society has those photos, so.
I have some of the flooded basement, but I don't think, well,
But, anyway,
anyway.
yeah, that's a good idea. Keep people informed. And at some point, we'll have to put some kind of a strategy together to a salvage operation for some of the stuff that's inside.
And I would really urge, as much as I can urge, to do that between now and the end of September.
Yeah,
Because hopefully October, November, we're
yeah.
making some moves, not making any promises.
Come on. Okay. Anybody else have any more questions on the roof? Okay, it's not.
Thanks for your work.
Thanks, Elizabeth. She's being real patient with me. And so's Reg. I want this pushed ahead a little bit here, but anyway, they're being real tolerant of me, so. So is that all you have, Elizabeth, for tonight?
That's it. I'm gonna hang around for the bridge repair conversation.
Okay. Good enough, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And item number 8 on the agenda, Swanton Village Police Department update. We have our chief here, ready to give us a report.
All right, you'll see in front of you the 2 packets of information. One is the incidents for July, and then the second packet of information is the incidents for both the village and the town combined, so you get a more complete picture of what the police department is doing as far as business. As far as the village goes, there were 140 incidents, and out of the top 10 of those incident types, there were 21 traffic stops, 19 suspicious people, 10 citizen assists, 10 citizen disputes, 8 directed patrols, 6 agency assists, 5 motor vehicle complaints, 5 thefts, 5 alarms, and 5 welfare checks. Out of those 21 traffic stops, 5 tickets were issued and 16 warnings were issued, and there were 5 arrests in the village. If we jump to the town and the village combined, the agency responded to 264 incidents. The top 10 incident types there were, the number 1 incident type was a traffic stop, 74 traffic stops between the village and the town. There were 26 suspicious people, 18 agency assists, 14 citizen disputes, 14 citizen assists, 10 welfare checks, 10 directed patrols, 9 motor vehicle complaints, 8 boating incidents, and that's something that you may have not seen before. That's to document the officers' participation in Stone Garden. So previously that was not documented, but I had them start documenting their contacts in the boat. So you'll see that, at least for the remainder of the summer. And then, and that's it for that. Out of those 74 traffic stops, and you'll see that the data doesn't necessarily correlate, and I think it's because in the ticket field, when I search ticket data, if the officer hasn't populated the ticket field yet, then it's not pulling that data out. So out of those 74 traffic stops in the village and the town, there were 16 tickets issued and 49 warnings issued. That's a total of 65 versus the 74 traffic stops total. So that's just a lag time in populating the system with the information. And there were 6 arrests, so just 1 more arrest in town.
Are there any trends here? Are things getting better, getting worse, staying the same?
I think traffic is certainly a concern. I was out there multiple times, engaged in traffic myself to get an idea as to what was going on. I sat for 4 hours on Upper Spring Street running traffic there just outside the village in the town. I personally I think there should be a little bit more of a buffer because the speed limit rapidly transitions from 50 to 40 to 30 in the village. So it's a rapid drop, and I think that from an equity standpoint, it'd be better from the perspective that I got was that maybe there should be a little more buffer. You know, that 40 mile per hour speed zone should probably be pushed out so people come into that and there's a little more of a transition before you reach the village itself. And similarly, I found Route 78 up by the high school, right? You have a rapid transition from a 50 mile per hour zone to a 35 mile per hour zone. And there again, you encounter some very high speeds with people exceeding 50 miles per hour and then trying to transition to 35. So my preference would be to see a little bit more of a buffer, some sort of transition in those areas, because I think it's probably aggravating the issue once they get into the village proper and the speed drops. The other thing is that the officers have been very proactive as far as identifying drug activity. They've identified 4 known drug locations and are being very proactive in attempting to address that issue as well. But as far as the main priorities, traffic and drug enforcement goes, and they're working on both of them. I would like to see, obviously, if you look at these numbers, I'd like to see more of a balance between tickets and warnings, but it really depends on the contact. There was an issue that was brought up in the select board meeting with the town as far as there was a warning issued for, I want to say, 21 over. I met with that officer and spoke with him to get some sort of perspective as to why he issued the warning. And obviously, we want officers, it's very difficult to put a hard line in the sand and say, you shall do this. We want officers to exercise discretion. But in this case, I think, quite frankly, the officer is just too nice. And so it's sometimes difficult for officers to engage in that sort of punishment sort of enforcement where there's that monetary fine associated with enforcement. But in any case, I had a conversation with that officer, and hopefully it was a mentoring moment. I'd like to see more of a balance, essentially. Generally officers give a leeway of about 10 miles per hour over, and then anything above that, we should be looking at some sort of monetary fine associated with the infraction.
We'll have another issue in here now. They realize the ATV traffic in the town, was it the 6th? With the 4-wheelers?
Yeah, they're past their 60-day period is my understanding when I did the math earlier, it was last week. And so I don't know that we've seen anything in the village itself that I'm aware of, but we'll see how that goes. I know there's been some incidents recently, last week, up at the high school as far as, I mean, obviously there's the sand pits back there that people are in, even though they're not supposed to be, and then up on the fields at the high school. And unfortunately, with issues like that, somebody sees the issue, they call us, and by the time we get out there, they're gone.
I know we had discussions with former Chief Stowe, and he actually got the 30 mile an hour up to 40 at the village limit, because it went from 30 to 50 at one point, and he was able to get it pushed out. I wanted to get 30 miles an hour right to the town line, but he couldn't get that done. He was able to get it down to 40, and then I think by the old money fine is where it went to 50. So I don't know how we would be able to push that any farther. I like the idea.
Yeah, I would personally would just like to see a little bit more of a buffer, because when I
Yeah,
drove through there and
I
came
agree.
back around, you're in a 50 mile an hour zone, it rapidly transitions to a 40, you're in a 40 for a brief period, or a brief section, I don't even know what it is, it's
Right.
probably several hundred yards,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're at the village speed.
Along that same line, I think over by the high school where you're mentioning a buffer, I think you'd have to be in the town of Highgate. And that raises another problem, I guess, if you wish to pursue it. I did have one other opposite question, actually. You had done some studies that you reported on a past meeting, and we're probably going to try to focus on at least one problem area. Have you been at all successful?
As far as the shore,
Yes.
yeah, so we have focused, so I want to say it was the 17th, we did we hosted a Governor's Highway Safety Detail. Unfortunately, nobody participated from outside agencies, but myself, Officer Calvin, Officer Gilbert, all participated. So I started that detail down on the shore. I want to say Officer Calvin was out on Route 105, as there's been several incidents up there this summer.
Yeah.
And then Officer Gilbert was on St. Albans Road, where we started, and then that transitioned over time. And then a second Saturday, I came in and was working covering shift, but mainly focused on enforcing traffic, and that's when I sat on Spring Street. I want to say I was at Cabri Lane there, so in the 40 mile per hour zone. And then I drove out on 78 and got a better feel for that as far as the way that transition is, because people up in Highgate are just, they're really moving along. Right, I think you're seeing speeds most likely in the 60-ish range, if not a little higher, with the lack of traffic enforcement during COVID. So I think we're trending in the right direction. I mean, if you look at these numbers, and unfortunately, I don't have that historical perspective as to where we were at as far as traffic stops. I'd have to go back and review some of the village reports over the years to see, but my understanding is we're on pace as far as trying to increase our traffic enforcement contacts, which that presence in and of itself hopefully will be a benefit to the village as far as bringing the speeds down and causing people to operate in a more safe way.
Have you, I don't even know if I can use this word, have you noticed an increase in unfamiliar people walking through the streets?
Suspicious persons.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's been some people that we've had multiple contacts with. I don't know that there's certainly been some activity at some of the locations, some of the known drug locations, with motor vehicles and that sort of thing coming in and out of those locations. So as far as that goes, as far as people who maybe aren't known to the officers, I think in that context there are some.
Yeah, some people, as I've been told, walking through the village onto parts unknown, with backpacks and things like that.
I don't know, we haven't had a lot of reports that I'm aware of
Okay.
that nature.
Okay. I mean, where I'm stationed now until the end of the month, it's, I've recognized some of these people you know, and I've talked to a few of them, and, yep, just passing through. 4 days later, just passing through. Don't know you,
Yeah.
passing through. So, but,
There were, I can think of off the top of my head, I wanna say, officers had a contact with a couple that was supposedly camping, I forget the exact location, but in a wooded area
Yeah.
where they shouldn't have been, and so they
Yeah.
left, but,
and if I see anything suspicious, obviously it's, you know, your own speed dial. But, I was just curious, cause I had seen a little bit more, and then the last couple of weeks, it's been a little crazy, so I haven't seen as much, but I still keep my eye out.
Yeah, well, certainly let us know.
Yep.
I mean, we certainly encourage anybody,
Absolutely.
to provide information to us.
See something,
because-
say something. It's that simple. Thank you.
Last time we met, I asked you about the possibility of the cost what a resource officer might be for the elementary schools. I'm still gonna push that and bring that up, and hopefully we'll have a meeting between the village and the town to talk about that with the school district. But I'd love to have some kind of a ballpark figure to talk about what that might cost. And I really do think that not all the bad guys live in Texas, so.
We have a meeting arranged tomorrow with the school district, a preliminary meeting,
Really?
yes.
Terrific. Want some support?
So, we'll see, hopefully. We've got some details to hammer out as far as the SRO position goes in general, but we'll see where we're at, because that's my understanding, is that was the initial plan. You know, coming into this year was to have an officer in the elementary school, and for whatever reason, that didn't work out. But hopefully we'll have more insight tomorrow.
That's, I got a couple of my constituents that keep throwing that bug in my ear, and I think it's good.
You know, I will say that the officers did a great job after some of these high-profile incidents that were just, I don't know, what, a month and a half ago, more or less, where they really hit the elementary school also. You had Sergeant Badeau, you had Officer Cleary, and Officer Scott, all at each location, going and checking in. So there was a lot of officer presence in the village at these
Great.
locations and at the high school.
And, haven't brought it up yet, National Night Out was a good success, I think.
It was, yeah, so National Night Out was last Tuesday. And so there was a great crowd that came out. I don't know, it was probably, what, a couple hundred people?
At least a couple hundred, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of kids, a lot of families, the band was great. And so I think a lot of people had a very good time, barbecue. So it was a very nice event, and there was a great turnout.
Had some guy walking around in a Hawaiian shirt, thought he was from out of state.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out, I left my job in St. Albans. Swanton's hat was bigger and had a better turnout.
All right.
No coverage and no message.
Actually, I'll also add this, the police department was very busy this last month with training. We had multiple training sessions. We had an investigator, a very experienced investigator who now works out of the AG's office with Medicaid fraud and elder abuse. He came in and gave a great class for a few hours, and then in addition to that, we just put all the officers through a firearms training. Had a team meeting with the officers also to see where they were at, and so that, you know, the primary topic of discussion was the retirement, which we've discussed previously here, and then the schedule were really the two primary issues, which I think we may have a fix to the schedule issue as far as getting the guys on the rotation so that we don't have one or two officers that are stuck working weekends all the time.
Make it fair.
Anybody else? Have anything for the chief?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much, chief. Next item. Discussion and update on bridge repairs. I think that's from you, Reg.
Yep. So, David, you want me to kick this off, or you wanna just where we're at this point?
Go ahead.
Okay, so, at this point, we had, I think I updated the last time, we didn't have any people return any bid applications. So we put it back out for, another couple of weeks? And then we finally did receive 2 bids, and, we did have a winning bid, which was from PCI. And they came in at 323. Hang on. I don't
Yeah,
know.
323.
Thank you. So the bid, or the grant that we received from the highways grant was for 175. So obviously we got a shortfall of roughly $150,000. So we made some calls, did some outreach. So 323,250 was the $323,250 was ECI's winning bid. I believe you had estimated 330 at your low end, originally back June, I think it was. So we got $150,000 shortfall. In all the conversations I've been having with V-Trans and Bethany Rimmers at Regional Planning, at the very least, it's not gonna be 3 years before the bridge gets constructed. It'd probably be closer to 5. So, I mean, even if they had an, escalated this or, sped it up, you're still not gonna see anything within 3 years, probably 4. So if we do a repair, we should do a repair that is gonna last us to,
10
3 or 4
years.
years.
at least 5 years.
Right.
At least.
Will this bid do that?
This, yes, David, this bid will take us,
There won't be any joint anymore. We're ripping out bad concrete. We're going back to new concrete and putting in a different type of joint, but a new joint, which will carry us through easily for 5 years.
Okay, that's good news. Thank you.
So my question, how bad does the state want the bridge open?
Yeah.
Fair question.
It is.
Maybe that's where we need to start.
We played that card once before.
No, I don't think we
And
have.
it worked. Oh, yes, we did.
Oh, on
We
something
shut,
else.
we shut the road down by Swanton Village and tear it up. Sent the trucks down through Route 2.
Yeah, that's right.
That sent all the big shots that live on Route 2 went absolutely berserk,
Mhm.
and we were back in business in a month.
I guess that's where I need to start.
so the 175,000 we have until, David, I went back and I found the grant, it's until, the 2023, December, the 2023. So we have until
Okay.
then to use it.
Yeah.
So we did repair that one joint where the, metal was flapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did
On
one
each
side,
side.
yeah, but then the noisy one this past summer, we did replace that one.
The other one's going on, the other side, the westbound is north.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Where can we get the 150?
So I did ask the league, and we can use ARPA funds
Okay.
to make those repairs. The bid process does show that they follow the Davis-Bacon rules, and they do have DUNS numbers, obviously, this is ECI, so they're a reputable business. So I think the next step is that the trustees need to approve the bid, and then we contact ECI and say that they were awarded the bid. And then I guess from there, we just need to work with them to figure out a timetable and where we go next.
Should we move to use ARPA funds? Would that be-
I'm not willing to pay for this.
It's gotta be done.
yeah. Uh,
I get it.
I mean, we had a conversation that if it was a couple of years, 3 years,
Exactly.
but it's gonna be more like 5
And it
before.
could be 10 before, I mean, they've changed their mind 69 times.
How many times they told us they're gonna fix 78 between here and Hubbard?
They're working on it now.
You know?
Over 20 years.
We're working on what ifs. We gotta address the situation at hand. I mean, the thing that I'm wondering about is if we put $325,000 into the repairs, how much further down the line are they gonna push the
Exactly.
major repairs of the bridge?
Yep.
How's that gonna affect the schedule for the replacement of the bridge?
Yep.
They're gonna say, well, if they rehabbed it for 5 years, so we can push it back another 5.
And then we're in the same boat.
I'm all for going ahead and, you know, and approving the ECI to do it, and try to find the funds, because it's gotta be done. Because, if we don't go ahead with that, it won't get done, and it'll get worse, so. And as far as closing the bridge, that's not gonna work.
We're gonna make some noise. You know, I'm right there with you, Neil. I just think that we're just giving the state of Vermont an easy pass. Push it out another 5 years and, you know, the village is gonna be on the hook 5 more years and 5 more years and 5 more years. And that's hard for the.
So I will tell you, I think I represent the town on the Transportation Advisory Committee, I can't remember, I represent the village on something and the town on something, so I represent Swanton, we'll just call it that.
Yes.
I don't disagree with either side, but I think we've gotten, in the past, we got Senator Welch's office, Senator Leahy's office involved, and I think that's where we got some momentum, even though it may have died down a little bit, but I think keeping them involved, keeping TAC involved, making some noise. I'm not gonna advocate one way or the other for closing the bridge. I live in Rouse's Point, please don't close the bridge. But I think keeping it, top of mind how important this is, not only for Swanton, for the region, for folks coming from Canada, folks coming from New York, and just keeping those conversations open and happening.
I just don't understand why they can't give us a firm date.
Well, I mean, you have to,
It's not rocket science.
no, and I think that there is some truth to the idea that part of the reason they've pushed it back is it's a boat, I almost said that word, it's a boatload of money, and they'd rather spread it out than commit that much to one. But I think we have some folks in our corner who may not have been previously, because they just understand that this is the age of the bridge, the fact that it's ADA non-compliant, and some other issues that they realize it's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, the sidewalk is not width, the guardrails aren't the height.
And this is where Neil and I butt heads, because I'm an optimist. But, and I never used to be, but I just think if we keep pressure on, I mean, 5 years is better than we've heard.
Yeah, because it
I
was,
think
We're on-
last
we're-
year we heard 3 years.
it was
Well-
10, no, it was 3 to 5.
It was 3 to 5.
3 to 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My
So
opinion.
commit 3 to 5.
Um,
I mean, how hard is that?
So, I mean,
They can put
I'm not trying to be stubborn, I'm
no,
just.
but I mean, I can try to, yeah, I mean, I gotta follow your guidance, so, but I'm not
But I'm
one
on three.
that will,
Remember that, I'm 1 of 3.
I know, that will swing a big bat to try to hit somebody first before we have conversations. I mean, if you want to give me a little time, we gotta find out, David, from ECI, what their time frame is. They may still be out into next year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we put in the contract that it has to be done by the end of November. It might be worth a phone call to them to see, because the contract stipulated by the time snow flies, they're supposed to have pavement out there. So that was the whole point, so we don't have to go through another snow season of you guys having to go out there. Yeah, it's,
We could do that, Dan, and I think that with that information, it might help us make a decision 2 weeks from now. Or some
Yeah, I
date
mean,
like that.
I mean, I've been reaching out to the state and I haven't been getting, I don't know if you had any luck on return calls?
no, no one's yet. They've gone dark. They're pretty busy up there. You know, I can try again, try a different tack, trying to get an answer out of someone. The head of the bridge group is retiring. So there's a lot of changes going on up there. I could reach out to, I don't have a relationship. I haven't talked to her in years, the head of the scoping group. That's how all these projects start, to find out if the scoping study is at least started. That's Laura Stone at VTrans, to see if it's on her radar. That's their first step.
But David, can you at least appreciate our concern?
Oh,
I mean,
it's, yeah,
you know.
I mean, I 100% agree with you, and you don't want, because my concern is, like you said, we do this work and VTrans then says, oh, it's been done, we can kind of push this down the line because we raised the rating up, and 5 years then becomes 7 years, becomes 10 years, and we're right back out here again, and it's ARPA, then the ARPA funds. My hope was, because I work with other states, we've seen a lot of the states have been moving projects up because they've had this inflow of money coming right now. And, this is a prime candidate if they have an influx of cash coming in to do the major rehabilitation that's needed out there. But at the same time, it's a lot of money for you guys. You don't have to go through another winter of temporary repairs. So I 100% agree with you. It's a tough decision.
David?
Yes.
Bethany Remmers is with regional planning. I can reach out and see if she has a relationship with Laura Stone.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it would help. I mean, I have a vague relationship with her. She doesn't really deal with the consultants that much. But we have an on-call contract with VTrans as well. I can try giving her a call tomorrow morning. See if it's at least on her radar. But yeah, it's a tough situation. It's a tough proposition either way.
It is. I mean, I do not want to put one dime into that bridge of taxpayer funds. None.
Yeah.
That bridge belongs to the state. If they can't do it, then let's shut it down and fix it.
No, it doesn't belong to the state.
I know it belongs to the village, and that was wrong to begin with.
Because the third scenario is then which I've been concerned about, is putting this money into it and then it gets ripped out in 3 to 5 years. You're spending this money for something that's not going to last for 20 years.
Right.
If we wanted to do something to last for 15 years, we would have done something to last for 15 years. So,
Yeah.
By the way,
And that project was 550,000.
Yeah.
which nowadays is probably higher when you see the way bid prices are coming in.
if bid prices stay the way they're going, in 5 years, what will a new bridge cost?
Oh geez,
Just
a
guess.
lot. Yeah, I mean, you're
25,
talking
30 million?
you're talking well into the millions.
Yeah, I know.
So when I first got here 11 years ago,
This
they
is like
said
1% of it.
the cost was like $2.5 to $3 million on that when I got here 11 years ago.
Yeah, you're probably you're easily north of 5.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, 5 plus.
Yeah.
So based on a percentage basis, $150,000 is not that much money. I understand where these guys are coming from, because you may give the state an opportunity to do something. But I think that we have a responsibility also.
Yep.
So let me do this. Why don't we confirm the bid for ECI? They're awarded that bid. Let me do some more digging with VTrans to see if we can get the date or some funds. But remember, when the complete replacement happens, we're on the hook for a certain percentage of that, I believe 10%.
I'm sorry?
we're on the hook for, I think, 10% when the complete bridge replacement comes in. So,
We can fight that at that time. Because as we've said, they're gonna push it out another 10 years, so.
I mean, the funding amount changes to based on the type of project delivery. If we do a rehabilitation, you know, the town saves a certain percentage. If we did an accelerated bridge construction, you know, you save another 5%. So at a minimum, I think you could get down to, if you did a rehabilitation with accelerated bridge construction, you might get down to 2.5% funding share. You know, I have talked with Reggie too. Worst case scenario, we don't do anything this fall. You know, we can put in a repair so we don't have to go out there in the middle of winter. It would be temporary type repair with some wood blocking and some temporary asphalt over top of it with some blue board to allow for a little bit of expansion. That's not going to last you for 5 years, but it'll get you through the winter.
so we did do that on one side where the tin was just flapping in the air. We did do that, so we could still do the repair to the other side too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be something in that nature. We could easily, you know, walk you through it. It's not it's a stopgap measure for a stopgap measure. So
Yes.
yeah.
So, voice of pessimism here. I think, I agree with Reg and Eugene. I think we ought to give ECI the go-ahead and see what their schedule is and get it going as soon as, like it says, as soon as possible, and keep after all the forces to supplement the bid. But if we don't do it, it's gonna get pushed off again. If we don't start right now and put it off again, it's gonna be snowing now, so. At the very least, we gotta give ECI the bid, I think.
Yeah, we gotta let them know that they were awarded the bid, because they were low bid. And now it's just, we just need to figure out where we're gonna get the gap funds, basically the 150. If we want to pull it from ARPA, or do we wanna see if we can strong arm V-Trans to,
Well, we can do both.
yeah.
Or we can let it fall in the river. Like, Adam doesn't wanna put any money into it, it's not gonna get fixed, so.
So, I mean, if we go back, I don't know when or why that the village was handed a bridge.
I don't either.
You know, I don't know, I can't find the history behind that, but over the years, certain things needed to be accomplished, like oiling the bearings, cleaning underneath the bridge. And we have been repairing the deck since I've been here, and even before I've been here, we've done repairs on the deck. So we have done certain due diligence, but we have not done the oiling of the bearings, which we are not bridge people, we're public works that manages that. So we weren't given the training to manage the bridge. But I don't know where all of a sudden somebody says, hey, guess what, you own a bridge. I don't know where that history lies. And I don't know where it said what our responsibilities were by owning a bridge. So it is what it is, I guess, and lack of a better term, they've always said, always be afraid of a person that says it is what it is. In this case, we got handed a turd on a stick, and now we need to polish it.
I wonder other bridges in other communities, like they redid the Broadway Bridge in Cambridge not long ago. Who owns that bridge? It's the same situation. So why don't we just roll it back then?
I can look into that.
Look into that.
Well, should we make a decision on the bid tonight or wait a couple of weeks?
I'd wait a couple.
Well, we can let them know they were awarded the bid, but then, you know, we got a process to follow that,
We don't have to.
Move
pay
forward.
them. We
Yeah.
don't have to pay them anything
correct,
by accepting the bid.
correct.
So I think we can accept the bid too. That's not a problem. least I don't think so.
Yeah, because we're the ones that have to, actually gotta tell them that, okay, you gotta move forward. So, I mean, we'll have a conversation with them, so what's your time frame look like? Yeah, just give us a chance to report back.
Ready to make a motion? I am.
Good.
Make a motion to accept the bid for the SI for $323,000 and 251.
Three twenty-three, 250.
250. And obviously have someone in front of them.
Either one of you want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to let ECI know that they have the bid for bridge repair. Any other discussion? We discussed it to death already. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried. And you can see what their schedule is.
Yep.
And we'll work from there.
So, David, I guess we're gonna be good friends here going forward, so.
Yep. All right, sounds good.
Hey,
Okay?
All right.
all right, thank you.
Yep, anything else, just let me know.
Okay, perfect.
All right, have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, next item on the agenda, any other necessary business? Voting day tomorrow. Don't forget to vote. Any other necessary business?
Successful car show,
Yes, that's right.
Good job.
205 awesome vehicles.
Great, how many?
205.
205? Okay.
Yep.
It was a great day, not too hot.
Not too hot, not too cold. Good Lord blessed us again.
Yeah,
No rain.
great car show.
Yep.
So. Yes, sir.
Do we still have a plant operator opening or any other
No,
openings?
no, sorry.
Everything filled in?
Yeah, we're all filled in. We got our maintenance person. They've been on board, what, maybe 3 weeks? Operator right now is going through training.
Good.
So far, so good. Catching on really well. And, so yeah, hopefully by end August, he'll be, on his own, and then we'll make that transition to the chief operator to day shift, managing the operations and the, personnel.
Would that be Mr. Schreier?
Mr. Shaddai, yep.
And a simple question, I remember up in the last meeting, we approved the mural down at the beach. Did they paint it yet? No?
Nope.
Hadn't been done.
I couldn't remember if we'd approved it.
It was in the minute, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I was,
Oh.
I had a busy couple of weeks and
Okay.
We did mow in front of the
Don't worry about it. They can do it whenever they want then.
ward down on,
Doesn't
Route
bother
7.
me.
no, I completely,
We did mow that.
Yes, I saw that yesterday, yes. Any more issues with the stump dump down there?
Dean hasn't screened it or anything, no, so. We do have, there's a homeowner down there on Foundry Street that is concerned about people that, are down there loitering after hours, late at night, and all this other stuff. The chief is aware of it. The staff have been keeping an eye on the area.
I hear them occasionally, by the way.
Down by the boat ramp there?
Yeah. I don't think it bothers many people, but something's happening once in a while.
So we may try to do like we do down to Swanton Beach, is put a gate up and from dawn to dusk. You know, during walleye season, just leave it open, but typically dawn to dusk. You know, you see a car down there with a trailer, obviously, we won't put the gate up so you can get out of there, but. So we
I
may poke at you
suspect
guys
based
to help us
on
manage that.
the noise, that it's either four-wheelers or dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Can I help you?
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Anywhere? If not, we don't need an executive session this evening. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this regular meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees.
so,
Second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed, this Meeting is over. Thank you very much.